Right, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. At this time, as a call to order, I'd ask you to all please, if you are able, to salute the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time we have public comment, and for those that may not know, public comment is meant to be approximately 3 minutes long per speaker, and the board does not interact. The board will listen and take note of your comments, and we will take them into consideration, whether it's on the agenda or perhaps for a future agenda, or if it's something you would like to call back on, please let us know. At this time, I'm going to start from this side of the room. Do you have anything you'd like to address this evening?
No.
Would you like to say anything? Please stand and talk to the microphone.
Question, nothing new, but
Could you just speak into the microphone and say your name and address?
Jamie Freeman, 3 Dairy Drive. I'm sure you've heard everything. Do you need a refresher?
Thank you. Regarding the stop sign at Webster
Thanks, that's
Lane.
the way to.
Would you like to add anything?
I would.
Yes, please.
Carol Rady, 282 Hebron Road.
Thank you.
And the only reason I would add anything, I agree with, we've all done our bit about why we want the stop signs removed, but then my brain must have been working in the background, because I woke up one morning and I said, we have a problem for the people coming from Webster Lane. They need solved. We have a problem. We need solved. And so their problem was they couldn't see far enough to their right to see traffic coming. And so I did a little Google search. And also my son-in-law is in and out of airports all the time, in airport garages. And plus I used to travel a lot, and they have traffic mirrors that you come up on it and you can see around the corner, you can see around the bend, so you know what's ahead of you. So I looked it up, and there's a 40-inch traffic mirror that will give you 250 feet. And that's more than they had talked about having now, considerably more. So it was just one of those things that struck me. It may not have been something that any of us thought of.
Thank you.
Have you seen them before? I'm sorry.
I know.
Oh, no, we don't.
We don't regret, but thank you for the suggestion, and
It's
I
just a
believe
thought.
they're nodding of head that we know, which is
Okay.
but thank you for the idea. All right, continuing on, Mr. Walsh, would you like to address the board this evening?
Yes, same subject matter. Pressing for a new town hall. I still feel that this town hall is beautiful, nice, and I want to preserve it, but it's functionally obsolete, doesn't work, very antiquated. And I think building a new town hall for the old elementary school is an excellent idea. For the aforementioned reasons I mentioned in prior meetings. And I'm really pushing for that. It's a good idea, I think. 2 other things, first, I own a property, corner of Brandon Street, Bolton Center Road, and you're gonna put that walkway right in there, right between my mailbox and the tree. And I'd like to talk to someone about how to do that. It's a real tight spot, you got a 5-foot sidewalk, and there's not hardly that. It's gonna be very disruptive unless you do it right, I think. But you gotta put a pipe in there for carry the drainage for the street. And I think you gotta get a saw to take down the roots of the big hickory tree there, and then build your walkway. But it's a tight spot, and I like to discuss it with somebody.
Thank you, that would be noted.
The third thing is, I noticed on Bolton Center Road, right near on the north side near Notch Road, you got new drainage work there. And there's no sedimentation control or anything else, nothing, I can't see anything there. Little hay bales down there or something to try to stop the erosion when it happens would be good, I think. That's it.
Thank you for your thoughts and your expertise in a lot of those areas.
You're welcome.
Mr. Fournier, would you like to address the board this evening?
No, I'm good. Thank
Mr. Hayes, would you like to address the board this evening?
Pass, thank you.
Mr. Aldrich, would you like to address the board this evening?
Yes, please.
Please, please. Step up to your microphone.
You're welcome. I got 5 minutes. Hope you'll indulge me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The village had not refused to keep their public in this.
But I'll be back, but I'll cut down the time.
Thank you.
My name's James Aldrich, 35 Hanover Farms Road. I'm here to talk about the first selectman position, the need to increase the pay and benefits. Because you have members not here, I'm going to read right from my text here. Charter revisions approved in 2022 included significant changes. One key item, however, was extensively discussed and was intentionally omitted from the final document. That item is the pay of the first selectman. In this charter, as well as all past charters, it states, the first selectman shall be the chief executive officer of the town. Almost all citizens know what the phrase chief executive officer means. Wikipedia defines this term as the highest officer charged with the management of an organization, especially a company or a nonprofit institution. For town, the role of CEO is lessened because state statutes allow for much separation of the education sector from general government. Still, the town only has one auditor, one federal employer identification number. The town files many IRS and other documents as a single entity, and the insurance policy for all town employees comes packaged in one bundled policy. When the citizens of Bolton vote, they expect the person at the top, the elected official most focused on the overall management and operations of town government, is the CEO, the first selectman. Many times in the past, the three-board system, selectmen, education, and finance, was easy to have conflicts between the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen, with the Board of Finance as the intermediary and the allocation of funding. Problematic to this was the limited knowledge the Board of Finance had regarding the details of the needs and challenges each board was facing. To lessen these differences, the new charter has created a finance committee consisting of 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, 2 members of the Board of Ed, and 3 at-large members chosen by the citizens of the town. This group will meet year-round, and hopefully the expanded interaction will result in greater collaboration and cooperation to find economical and practical solutions to improve the efficiency, transparency, and operational effectiveness of town government. One individual that was influential to some of us on the Charter Commission in the creation of the Finance Committee was Mayor N. Warren Pete Hess of Naugatuck. Mayor Hess not only serves his duty as mayor, he's a member of the Burgesses, their Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the Board of Education. Naugatuck was the first town in the state to have the mayor serve on the Board of Ed. I was aware of this because when I was chair of the Board of Finance, I was given a copy of a practical guide to Connecticut school law. That's this book. This book is that all members of the Board of Education are given when they're elected. It defines their obligations and duties under state statutes. The book states that the mayor can serve on the Board of Education. I called Mayor Pete and he confirmed he serves on all boards. He said the courts had fully vetted this issue. He was the attorney that defended the case in court, in appellate court, and at the Supreme Court. He won at all levels. After winning the case, he decided to curtail his law practice and run for office as mayor. It was a significant cut in pay. The job today takes about 60 hours a week, but has greatly improved the partnership of all branches of town government. He considers this change to be a significant success. As a side note, it is my opinion that his work in this endeavor is one of the greatest expansions to democracy that I've seen in my life. For Bolton, there were brief discussions with the education and general government representatives about adding the first selectman as a member of the Board of Ed. For Bolton, it was too big of a step. From that dialogue, however, came the idea of a finance committee. And the reason that the Charter Commission brought this forth is a separate charter referenda question. It's not mandatory in Bolton that the first selectmen all serve on the finance committee, but for a CEO to be effective and to solve big challenges is something that the CEO should strongly consider. Lead by the bully pulpit. The powers of the CEO in the new charter are still limited. The biggest power the first selectman has is the power of persuasion. Mayor Pete confirmed this. Many people that serve on boards are good people, but they have busy lives and many other obligations. The first selectman needs to put in more time than others, needs to learn the nuances of many different issues and be able to articulate them and listen and offer alternatives to concerns brought by other members of multiple boards. In other words, there must be at least one person to monitor all the different segments of town government, so that the mutual goal of success and well-being of the town is first and foremost in all decisions. To empower the first selectman to do this more demanding job and to ensure that
talented and knowledgeable leaders from the citizenry are willing to enter the arena of elected office, campaign for this job and execute it well, the pay and benefits of the CEO position needs to be commensurate with the duties of managing a $24.8 million complex business organization. We also know that in some cases, to take the CEO position, a successful candidate may need to put their regular job on hold for 4 years, knowing at the end of their term, they may not wish to run again or get reelected. They may need to do a full career reset. It's my intent to come to your board multiple times in the next few months to make the case for setting the pay and benefits of the first selectman to a reasonable level. It's time, I believe, to bring Bolton to a new level of governance for its current and future success and well-being. I'm hoping I'll be able to speak during public comment section of your meetings. I'm going to try to keep my comments to less than I previously anticipated. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for this write-up. That was very helpful. Did we have it in print also? Ms. Mandatory? Thank you. Go around the second time. Is there anybody else who'd like to say anything that did not speak in the first round? Very good. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you staying. Everybody should have their dinner. Just a minute. At this time, we'll move on to number 3, approval of minutes. The regular meeting of August 8th, 2023. And I hope the board has had a chance to review it. Are there any additions or corrections, deletions?
The handwritten corrections are those.
Those are Kathy's corrections that she suggested after she read them.
I'll move to approve this log date.
With the corrections recommended by Mrs. McCavanaugh?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Bob and Mike, any discussion? Any further discussion? At this time, I would call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye, passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on then to the August 22nd special AP meeting. That was held at 5 o'clock.
I'll move the adoption as presented.
One more move. Do I have a second?
Second.
Adam jumped in. Thank you, Mike, but Adam jumped in. Thank you, Adam, for seconding. Any other discussion? If hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
I
Hearing no opposition, it passes unanimously. We're going to be moving right along then to number 4. We have appointments. We have Diane D'Annunzio, who will be moving from alternate to full member of the Wetlands Commission with a term that ends in 7/1/2026. At this time, I would ask for a motion to accept her elevation to full member.
I'll move that.
Bob Moore moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye, it passes unanimously. Moving on to B, we have Patrice Carson to appoint for the Central Regional Tourism District as representative for the term ending 3 years from the appointment date. We all know what the job that Patrice does for our town and her work. This is not a new position, but the term needs to be reappointed. So at this time, I would ask for a motion to accept her position. Okay. Adam,
I move that we appoint her to that position.
thank you. And a second? Bob Moore seconds. Thank you. Hearing any discussion? Not seeing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed unanimously. New business. Discussion, number A, discussion of sharing troopers with the surrounding towns. Some conversation has been started. We're continuing to work on trying to see if there is interest or the ability to work on greater efforts to share troopers, as was suggested by member Michael Aramita. So there really is, at this time, it is in progress.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to B, discussion of the ribbon cutting for the open house for the temporary building. I'm pleased to report that the delivery is projected to be September 29th for the temporary building. We're very pleased at the efforts led by our own Jim Rupert, who was very instrumental in getting using his vast experience in moving forward with all of the pieces that are needed for underneath the building. And we are looking forward to having a ribbon cutting and an open house. Jim, would you like the floor?
Sure, it's actually going right very well. And I will say that, you know, there's been a lot of support from our town crew as well as the Buildings and Grounds Department, putting all of this together. Once the building is delivered, we'll have a bit more work to do to get our utilities connected and to, you know, put in the appropriate stairs and the ramp. The cost of those rentals was just gonna be significantly higher than it's gonna cost us to construct something, so we're just gonna construct stairs and a ramp, and it may actually be, you know, a ramp that we purchase. It, you know, comes in components and we set it up, so that may, you know, that may work out well. So we'll probably need, you know, probably 3 to 4 weeks after the building is delivered to get it fully functional. But we're very much looking forward to moving our staff into that new facility.
Are there questions for Jim at this time? No, looking good. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. We'll move on then to C. Consider and act upon the Bolton Living History budget coming up on October 7th and 8th of this year. A year-long plan is moving forward, I think, quite well under the direction of our own very own Farm Commission and its chairman and some volunteers that have also contributed. They're outside the commission. There will be an encampment of reenactors who represent the French troops, not just the American. So please plan on attending. It will be day events, and there will also be a dedication of the living history signs that are now in place up at the farm. There will be lots going on, lots of things to see and do, and questions if you've got to ask. And they're fascinating, some fascinating storytellers, I think, that you will appreciate. At this time, I would like to ask that the board consider spending up to $5,000 from the Founder's Day Fund to be able to finish off any of the items that are needed. And I say up to because this is a little on the fluid side at the moment. We're not quite sure what any finite costs additionally could be, and it just gives some flexibility in case of needs that come. We are expecting about between 35 and 40 reenactors and the setup that they will all require, including potable water, firewood, and other necessities, including some food, and we're going to take care of them as best we can. They're very excited to be on traditional ground that has not been disturbed since 1781. They are just so excited. And it's contagious. So at this time, there in the Founder's Day Fund, there's over $70,000 still existing in that. And at this time, I would ask if I could have a motion to allow the administration to be able to spend up to, and I'm sure it probably will not be near the $5,000 mark, but that gives us a cushion. And because we will not be coming back to the board in time before the 7th and 8th. Could I have a motion to accept?
I'll move that we allow the up to $5,000 be allocated from the Founders Fund to be utilized by is it the commission that they utilize it for?
It would go through the board of selectmen.
But by,
request.
to be allocated by the administrative officer for the purposes of supporting the founders, the event at the farm.
With a report for the board of selectmen.
With a report back.
To be filed, well, I just assume that would be, but this is to be filed with a full report at the next full board of selectmen meeting.
It may be the November meeting. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second that for purposes of discussion. I do have a question.
Thank you, Adam, and I'd open for questions. Adam, you have a phone?
Sure. What is the Founder's Day Fund and how much is in it?
There's about $70,000, and I apologize, I don't have the exact amount. I believe it's just over. It is something that was created and saved for over 4 years for the Bolton 300 anniversary. Many of those projects fell apart or did not occur the way expected. There's some other anticipated thoughts to expend some money from that for other projects, but we'll discuss that at a future date. And this works very well because this is being considered by the Farm Commission and the Historical Society as Bolton 300+3. And we're very excited that after many years of delays or for reasons that are complicated, we're able to put it together for this year.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand the accounting that, because it's been mentioned that, but it wasn't, it's not like a separate bank account. It's in the general fund.
It's in the general fund.
Right.
It's-
So it's already in this budget.
Yeah, if my memory serves me correctly, Adam, it is set up by town ordinance. So I think there's actually an ordinance that governs that spending for townwide celebrations. So you would have to consider this as a townwide celebration.
Well, yeah, I think it is, but
I agree.
I don't think it's an appropriate use of the money. I just wanted to understand accounting wise, where we're taking the money from. We're taking money from money that's already.
It's already
We're not spending new.
But it is, no, money that's in the bank.
Good questioning. Thank you for that. Any further, Bob DePietro, question?
No,
Mr. Armita?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
And I've had a motion and I have a second. And if they're hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye, it passes unanimously. Moving on then, thank you to D. Consider an act on the bid waiver for the connectivity trail. Jim, I'm gonna give you the floor on this. We have some discussion and a request and one that has funding already set aside for it. Go ahead, Jim, please.
So you were sent today by email if you're not here physically tonight, on addendum to the packet, which is a proposal from Landy Construction to complete the connectivity trail. Our highway foreman has asked that you consider having Landy Construction complete the project from where it has been left off through its fruition. We have a price of $17,000 for that. And the reason is that, the spring weather with all the rain has put us further behind than we anticipated, and they are trying to get some paving projects completed here before winter, as well as normal everyday things that have been put on hold while we've been working on the connectivity trail. We have the money in the account from grant funds to be able to cover this. Looking at it, discussing it with the town engineer, I think this is a very, very fair price. But if you agree and would like to consider this, since we don't have the opportunity or the time to go out to bid, it would require a bid waiver by the board of selectmen in accordance with our bid cost.
All right,
I would open it for discussion. Mr. Moore, do you have?
I'm in favor, I just want to, with a comment that this is a construction company that's been working with the town right along in the earlier stage of this construction. particularly in the more delicate parts on the very beginning intersection and not go further out. It requires some equipment that we didn't have. And, obviously, we spoke, well, he was like very satisfied with the work that was provided, so the continuity is certainly for the price, this is a very reasonable price. I would say we should go ahead with this thing and, move forward on it and get this done before the weather changes and we're in a really difficult situation.
Let's hear from other board members. We'll go online, Bob Petro.
Yeah, how many linear feet are we talking about?
I don't know what it's feet, Bob, but I can describe it for you. It's from the end of the town green in front of the library. And there's work all the way to Knox Road, although the beginning of it has already, the pipe has been installed and 2 of the catch basin structures have been installed.
So that'd be 2 years.
Right, so there's a fair bit of work.
Okay, a couple of things bothered me a little bit about this. One is that it says in the proposal, verbal, if there's any changes, there'll be a verbal approval. It doesn't say by whom or follow up in writing. I mean, verbal approval by who? By whom?
Well, we could certainly specify.
I would like that. Just to me, it's too loosey goosey.
Thank you for your thoughts on that. Mr. Armita?
Yeah, I still have the concerns that I expressed at our last meeting about the remaining gullies on the side of the road. I have a question as to the elevations on the catch basins that they're installing and things like that. I don't see the gullies going away with the way it's being installed right now, and would question whether we're going to be able to get rid of the ugly ditches along that side of the road, the way we're moving forward on it. Has nothing to do with whether we spend the money or not, it has to do with the actual project. I don't have a problem with spending the money with Landy. I just have a concern that we're going to be left, once this is done, with that ugly trench again.
Would you have that discussion with Jim Rupert at another time, or?
Yeah, I brought it up last time and Jim said they were speaking to it and dealing with it, and I'm taking his word for that. I just, they haven't been working in a few days now, so I went by and it's just concerning to me. And Jim said it'll be taken care of. I'm just expressing my concern again. That's all. I don't have a problem.
Thank you. Adam?
So I actually looked at the plans, I went there and I went and discussed the whole construction project with the folks on site. And I was just wondering what was going on there and why the swale? The swale, because of the amount of water that flows on that road, the pitch of the road, there's gonna have to be a swale there just to pull the surface water off the road and down into those catch basins. That area is not finished yet. I wasn't quite able to get the actual full elevation. That would be a little higher because you'd have to have riprap in there and all the other items in there that for erosion control. And in the other part of it too, off the road, that would be seeded grass area. So I don't know the exact depth compared to where you look now, but there'd be but there will still be a slope in that area. And the reason for it, you have to draw the surface water, otherwise it will shoot all the way down. And you're in trouble further down the road. And that's how it was explained to me. So I thought I could share it with you and the rest of the board members.
Thank you. Excuse me, Pam. I get what Bob is saying. I was concerned because I saw the open side of a catch basin down at the corner of Notch and Bolton Center, and the next catch basin up is in front of the unimproved lot there or the vacant lot. And it seems awful low to me. That's why I was questioning it. But, you know, if it comes up and that's the swale is not ugly like the trenches we have now, I'll be happy. It is, it's a hazard. Nobody's driven into it that I remember in a long time. So that's a,
My wife did. My wife did. She,
oh, your wife did. Uh-oh, sorry. But, you know, it's just, you know, for the center of town and the fact that it is our town center and, you know, we want it to look nice. Those gullies on both sides of the road are extremely, they detract a lot from what our town could look like in the center. And I was hoping that this would make all of that go away, at least on one side.
Thank you very much. Mr. Teller,
I was gonna say that in my high school years, I do remember those gullies sweeping out the truck and dropping one or two of my. But, that's aside. Putting aside the design of the plan, I mean, that's on the town engineer,
yes,
whatever those issues are issues the town's had there for a long time, and I can't imagine that they're gonna get any worse from this project. I'm assuming that they're using it.
No. No, they can't do that.
I'm assuming they're using it as an opportunity to make them better. To speak to the point of the issue of the bid waiver, it's a small project. It's appropriate for a bid waiver. We have a long experience with this particular vendor and being satisfied, and they're working decently with the town. So I have no issue with that. I assume that our town engineer and our town administrator will have some oversight into the quality of the work, and
Yes.
and that it will come out, as I said, improved, if not ideal.
Adam, would you like to make the motion?
I thought the motion's already on the floor.
I made motion.
Thank you.
Falls in your court, Madam Chair.
All very good. If there's no further discussion, then we will move on then to taking a vote. All in favor of the bid waiver for $17,000 for land construction, please say aye.
I
Aye, passes unanimously. Thank you. The bid waiver for the Board of Education.
No action required by this board. It's just for informational purposes.
what's it for?
Pursuant to, we've read the bid waiver, to purchase the purchase of Chromebooks at the
Oh,
August
yeah.
20.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Purchase Done with the tips, the telephone purchasing.
Yeah, I remember now.
Okay, very good.
The board clerk has her hand up.
Hi, Miss Linda, may I help you?
Yeah, I do not have anything in my notes about any kind of motion for your prior connectivity trail discussion.
All right, Mr. Moore, would you reiterate your motion for the bid waiver for D, please?
Oh. Let's see. I move that we approve the bid waiver. To allow Landing Construction to complete the construction work on the connectivity trail between Notch Road and the library for the amount of $17,000.
And Mr. Teller said that he had seconded. Does he still agree to it?
I agree.
And we did vote on it unanimously. Does anyone wish to change that vote?
Nope.
Hearing that it was a unanimous vote then, Linda. Does that help you out?
That helps me. I just didn't hear any of it. I'm sorry.
That's all right. We maybe have put C and D together at one time. My apologies. Thank you for the clarification and the effort. Moving on then to number F, the discussion of the diversity draft statement. At this time, I would like to call on Mr. Moore. He would like the floor.
Right, I asked Pam to put this on the agenda because I spent some time going over that proclamation. And I actually sat down and I said, yeah, there's some good things there, and there's things I didn't particularly agree with. And there were things that I felt that should be simplified. And quite honestly, I used a bit of my own 81 years of experience in the community. And also, my experience is a very diversified family. When you look at a lot of the things they discussed in there, I say, yep, that's part of my family. But anyhow, with that said, and I've simplified it,
And I wanna bring it forward, so at least we get a subcommittee that can look at it and do comparative analysis. I don't think you're gonna find much difference. It's just the manner in which it's presented. And if you allow me, I'll read it as follows.
Yes, please.
Whereas the town of Bolton endeavors to be a welcoming community that takes pride in its history and recognizes the contribution that all past and current residents make to the town. And whereas the town recognizes that residents have much in common with each other. And whereas the town recognizes that residents also have differences. And whereas harm in any form against individuals because of differences such as their race, ethnicity, that, you know what it is, place of origin, physical, intellectual, or emotional disabilities, social economic status, religion, gender identity, age, or sexual orientation have no place in our community. And whereas the town of Bolton will continue to support that, will continue to support all in our community regardless of differences. And whereas the town of Bolton government, boards, and commission will promote respect for all people. Whereas our community shall continue to promote inclusiveness and reject hate and bias in all forms. And that was, and if you look at, you know, it's quite a bit shorter, but I think it represents the thought, and I think it represents our community.
We have a proposal on before us from a board member, and at this time, the board as acting as the first selectman and chair of this board, I would like to ask to appoint, and if you would approve, would accept a 2-member subcommittee to review this proposal and do comparisons or additions or deletions or subtractions. At this time, I would ask that Mr. Moore and Mr. Teller serve on this subcommittee and report back in 1 month's time. Would you accept, Mr. Teller?
Time wise, I'm under a lot of guns.
Pam, if Mr.
Just a
Teller
minute,
would like,
just a minute, please. Mr. Teller has the floor.
Yeah, are you,
Just a minute. Mr. Teller,
you talk time wise?
Yeah, time wise, I'm stressed.
that's understandable. We can understand. Mr. Aramita, would you like to address the board?
I'd be more than happy to help Bob with that.
I would like to have it bipartisan. I appreciate your offer, Mr. Aramita. Mr. Bob Petro, would you consider
Joining us?
serving with Mr. Mora?
Yeah,
Wait a minute, a little more enthusiasm there. Val. And like,
At this time, I would also ask if the board would consent to have Mr. Aramita join as well. Hearing no objection, and we have a 3-member subcommittee to meet during this month at their time schedule. And please report back to the meeting, the beginning of October. I'm sorry, we cannot take, but thank you. However, I'm gonna make an exception here. We have with us the former chairwoman of the Diversity Commission with us this evening. Would you like to comment on the creation of a 3-member subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Amanda Gordon. I was the chair of the Diversity Commission. So thank you, Bob, for taking the time to look into it. I'm happy that things are moving forward. I did have a question and didn't know if a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen could have a member of the public who filled a role such as mine as the chair of the Diversity Commission sit on that subcommittee with the Board of Selectmen to go through the.
At this time, it will be from the chair's prerogative, it will be a 3-person subcommittee, but you will be welcome under public comment to address them. And
Yep.
feel free to participate from that point of view.
Thank you.
You all,
The board, that should be, the
I'm sorry.
commission has been dissolved at this time, so there isn't a standing to be able to do that in from my view on the thing. Mr. Moore, would you like to jump in here now?
Just a few seconds. I just want to say, y'all spent a lot of time on that and appreciate it. And I like, when I read something, I like to be concise and I like it rather simple and to the point. That's why I kind of went that way and maybe I'm being self-serving, but I thought it presented the general sense of what that was all about. And in a positive way. I think the name of the game is, when we come out of this, we're not out to point fingers or anything. What we're looking to do is put our best foot forward as a community. And I think this is the way of doing it.
And at this time, I'll ask Mr. Moore to be, yes, yep, Mr. Moore. Keeping me on track. This is so good.
No, I see Mike Ridgeon.
I know. It's really-
I told her, Mike, she'll get to you in a second.
Then I'd ask Mr. Moore to establish meeting dates.
We'll sign up.
Mr. Aramita, hi. Jump in.
Yes. If Bob Mora is the chairman of this committee, which it looks like it's going to happen, the chairman has the right to set the rules of his committee. And if he chooses to allow somebody from the general public to sit into the meeting and have comments throughout the meeting, it's his prerogative. So if the whole thing of having comments at the beginning, while it's good for the Board of Selectmen, Bob may choose to allow somebody to speak throughout the meeting. Which would
Absolutely.
accomplish what we would like to do.
That is
Good point.
absolutely, as opposed to being additional of an additional outside member, but absolutely could be invited guests to come in and speak.
Right.
Thank you for that, Mr. Aramita. Mr. Aramita is the former first selectman as well. All right, thank you very much. At this time, no action is needed. We will move on then to 6, the stop signs on Webster Lane. And we have in your packet, we have the correspondences before you from the Freemans from July 13th. We have one from Mr. Gasper. We have one from, we have a correspondence from Mr. Dillon and a reflection back from him to November of 2017 and his correspondence to that, at that time, the administrative officer, Joyce M. Stilley. And that is a 4-page document. Is that something that other members by nod, that perhaps would like, public would like to see that information? So we will get you.
Something that all of us. It wasn't posted on,
This time, let me,
wasn't it posted as part of the package?
It should have been.
It was in the package.
The fact that this
Yeah.
really had one thing on it.
Oh.
is this,
That should have been
is this
posted.
included with that also?
I have it all.
I think they're all in there, but.
Mr. DePietro?
I have it all in my packet.
Have it all, very good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, here's more. Bill? Please forgive me if it's redundant. So at this time, looking at the issue before us and the information from our town engineer, Jim, would you like to have the floor?
Sure. Well, I mean, you've all received I think the memo from Joe Dillon really sums it up. He and I talked about it at some length over the phone. And I did, let him know that the Board of Selectmen felt that if he believed it to be necessary, we could bring in a traffic control engineer. And he said, he went back and he looked at his notes in this memo that he wrote back in 2017. And he said, at the end of the day, Jim, my position as a town engineer is not going to change. And the concern is that, the stop signs make the intersection safer because of limited sight lines coming out of Webster Lane, as was discussed earlier. And he said, if we could maintain the sight lines, it might be a different situation where we might consider removing stop signs. The problem is that it appears to him that some of the area that the town would have to maintain sight lines on is private property. And in order to determine that, we would have to probably send a survey crew down there to do some work, and then at the end of the day, we might have to try to obtain easements from a private property owner who may or may not wish to have vegetation, maintained by the town on private property. So that, that really is the meat and potatoes of his comments. It's put together here in a much more succinct fashion, as an engineer would put it, but that was the crux of the conversation I had with the town engineer.
It's not included in the packet. This is from 2017.
His letter?
Yes.
Is not there?
2017.
That's what I said, the letters from 2017.
Oh,
With this gentleman, was not, the information that's along is of this letter from 2017, not.
she was not holding up that piece.
No, there's another letter. There's an email from
There's an email as well.
2023. That wasn't available, or no? I mean, it's available last, but
Is there an email in your?
it's not in the packet online, or
Do you have an email?
A letter from 2017.
There's not a current email,
Currently, but referred back to 2017.
Correct.
right, but he's
but it does, there is a current one, correct? Email?
about the necessity to survey the property to make sure that the sightlines could be maintained and the need to clear the sightlines. Madam Chair.
Mr. Taylor?
I mean, I completely sympathize with the folks that have been here multiple times, and I understand how frustrating it can be to ask for something that you feel is, helpful to you, but we're not doing. But I'm looking at the 2017 information and seeing the sightlines recommended for 30, 35, and 40 miles an hour, and realizing that although the speed limits may be 25 and 30, that nobody thinks that people actually travel that speed on that road ever, with or without stop signs. And I don't think, he's using the most liberal numbers that he could use and still finding that the intersection's a problem for sightlines. If you just assume that people are doing 35 as a general rule, none of those sightlines are adequate. And they all, and that they would need stop signs. So it's completely, from an engineering standpoint, and I admit that my engineering degree is over 30 years old, but from an engineering standpoint, it's completely reasonable to install stop signs at that location and to expect that they will improve the situation and the safety of the intersection.
Even though there's been no accidents?
And that in 2017, that was the decision that was made. Or well, I guess 2021 eventually. And I just don't feel that it's appropriate for us, in the face of Mr. Dillon's new comment, that sure, remove the stop signs, but don't do it until you've cleared the sight line and made sure that the town can continue to maintain the clear the sight line. We work as a lay board based on that information that we're given by professionals who work for us. And that's the last word, unless we're gonna go spend that money to do the survey and do, hire a traffic consultant and all that. And that's a substantial expense for one intersection that I don't feel it's warranted for us to do.
It would also require a taking.
Well, if in that situation, if it turns out that the survey puts people, puts the line in the wrong place, yes, then we have to spend that money too, which is an inordinate amount of money. So And given that there are people on Webster Road who are supporting the stop sign, I mean, or stop signs. You know, we have groups of people who want different things. We can't do anything other than resort to the professionals and their opinions, and those opinions,
I am a professional.
if they're not,
Please,
if they're not, and I'm not responding to you, sir, because it's rude to do that to other people who don't get the opportunity to speak. And I understand you feel strongly about it, but I also, we have an obligation to both groups of people to do things based on what we're given by professionals and not just our own whim or choice. And the possession arrow is in favor of the status quo unless it's clearly different, because all of those things,
I ask that there's not an interchange.
yeah. I'm
We are
sorry.
having a public discussion where there's a conversation between the board and, because it feels like it's a very one-sided conversation all the time.
Bill,
And
you've had the floor, you had the opportunity to speak earlier, and you've had for past times to address the board, and you have given those comments to us, and you did a very eloquent write-up as well, so we have it before us and we have studied it, and it's gone before our town engineer as well. It's not gone unheard. I just want you to understand that. We appreciate your side of the issue as well. And Mr. Teller is addressing the side that he sees. Mr. Teller?
Again, we should always act based on evidence and not just on how many people on one side or the other of the issue, but the fact that there are people on both sides of the issue is meaningful to me. And I mean, we're not going to make everybody happy no matter what we do, but it's our obligation to listen to the professionals that we actually pay and whose job it is to give us opinions and decide whether those opinions are valid and reasonable. And from what I'm reading, they are valid and reasonable. They could be wrong, and we could go spend money to determine that they're wrong. And I don't discount that that's possible, but it's not up to me. Well, I guess it is up to us. But in our decision to spend money for the town, we have to decide where we stop. And I mean, this is a town where every dollar counts. So if I'm going to go spend $5,000 or $10,000 to have that area surveyed and have it and have a new traffic study done, which is probably around what it would cost, I gotta have a pretty good reason to do that, and I just don't feel that I do. Now, I'm one member of 5, so if I'm outvoted, I'm always cheerful about it, but that's where I am.
Hey, would you like?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Aramita, would you like the floor?
Yes, please. I agree with Mr. Teller on almost everything he said. We have hired people and they have given us professional advice and quoted traffic regulations and things like that as to how they determined this. If after having that given to us, and it basically says that we should leave the stop sign as is, unless we could guarantee sight lines, which we can't guarantee sight lines at all times of the year, the stop sign should stay. If we were to go against our experts that we have paid, and knowing that we could not in good faith say that we could maintain those sight lines 7 days a week, 24 hours, 365 days, and we did remove those stop signs and something should occur, the town would be liable for our actions. And I think, as Adam said, we've got professional advice in front of us that recommends basically that if we can't do what I said of maintaining the sight lines throughout the year all the time, then we should leave it as is. And I have to agree with Adam that that's my opinion as to what the information that we've been given has told me.
Mr. DePietro?
I agree completely.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moore?
Mr. Morris, his head is going around in a circle here. Candid with you, when I looked at it, when I drove it in all sides of it. And coming out of Webster Lane, whatever it is, it's a bear. And, then I gave it some thought and, okay, we have 3 stop signs there. And the only modification that I would ever consider was make it a 2 stop sign situation. Because the most critical, because when you're coming out of, it's disgusting, when you're coming out of Webster Lane, you cannot look left, look right. And if traffic is really moving, you've got to nail it to get out of there to be safe. That's the way it is. If you have one stop, and the worst portion as far as visibility is coming from the south, coming from Andover. That's the hardest part, that curve, that blocks. And that stop sign's got to stay there. You cannot safely move forward without having that stop sign. The only one I would even consider moving would be the Hebron Road one, because that has a better line of sight. And as a driver, you have, at least you have the knowledge that side's going to stop and you can see, you look that way, you can pull up. That's the only one I would consider doing. But again, that actually goes against everything that our engineer says, even that component, because that line of sight is not, I think he was looking at almost 380 feet for that, something in that range. And it's about, well, did it with my car, it's about 250 to 300 feet. So it does not meet that specs. So there you are.
We have, I have one other thing to add to this, that I had an experience that perhaps the other board members did not. And I did a ride along for a very snowy day, evening, and with our town driver that had driven that particular route for over 50 years during snowstorms. And I did the ride along for 4 hours. And it was one dangerous intersection that required, I believe, during bad weather, the stopping from all directions. But that comes from the experience that I had during exceptional conditions that occur multiple times during the winter, on a tough winter. And that was just my experience. And I was glad for the stop signs in all directions at that time. But I was in also a very large vehicle, and it was something that was doing the work that it was supposed to be doing, but it also had to stop and start and was not easily movable if it had to swerve because of another ongoing traffic pattern that was not conducive to the conditions. So at this time, I will ask, Mr. Aramita, please.
I just wanted to make one quick comment, and that is, you brought it up, Pam. Something that people aren't taking into consideration when they think about that stop sign is the size of the vehicle. In a full-size 4-wheel drive truck, you have not a great sight line, but you have a sight line that is possibly within the ability or the limits set forth. I drove my small car, the little 2-seater, and I had to be almost out into Hebron Road to be able to see anything, because the vehicle is so short. And, it makes a big difference if you're in a dump truck versus a small car. And the small cars are the ones that are the most vulnerable to get hit, and the most dangerous if you do get hit. So, I believe we have to go along with what our town engineer has told us.
At this time, then I would go around one more time. Mr. Teller, is there anything further you'd like to add?
Yeah.
Mr. DePietro, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I've driven that from all angles myself, and I agree with what Adam said, what Mike said, and what you said. So I'm good.
Ms. Moore?
No, I'm good.
At this time, then there will be, is there a motion? Would someone like to make a motion? At this time, I'll ask one more time, is there interest to put a motion before?
So let me ask a question.
Mr. Moore, you have the floor.
The signs are in place.
That's correct, we do not need action.
Right. So we don't need action. The action would be to change what currently exists.
That's
So
correct.
any motion to go forward would be to change it. So I don't think, unless someone has a motion to put forward to change it, my thought is, that's it. You've had the discussion, and if there's no motion to change it, then it doesn't change.
I would say to the board, if there is any future new information that comes before us, the board has the ability to, at that time, bring a motion before the body and could act on it at that time, if there is new information. And there will be a new board seated in December, and so there's always another opportunity.
You could have told us this 4 months ago.
George never got our address. Appreciate that.
At this time, I will move on then to the reports. We have, number 7. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, a 3-minute break? Is everybody would like to do that at this time? Thank you, everybody online.
Hmm.
I think we may have some unhappy campers.
Yes, I'm sure we do. But that's the part of the job that kind of sucks. You can't make everybody happy.
Recording stopped.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you can't make everybody happy, but you have to do what's right. Hmm. Can't hear you, Jim.
I muted us while we were on break.
Oh, okay.
You know, Mike, I am very, very concerned. Anybody that comes out of Webster Lane and just automatically assumes that the traffic from the right is going to stop is dumb.
Yes, you're right. You know, that's when we first put the stop signs up, I was insistent on putting a sign further down the road that said stop ahead to give them at least 2 chances to see it.
Yes.
And,
yes.
You know, I have seen people go through it, you know,
Yep.
and when I took my little Miata down there and pulled out of Webster Lane with the Miata, I had to be almost halfway across the street before I could see. You know, I'm sitting with my keister 6 inches off the road, and it's, you know, you do it with a dump truck, it's a whole different story. But,
Yep.
you know, and it's also the little tiny car like that that's going to get creamed, where the dump truck, it's just going to bounce off. You know, it's a bad intersection. It would be nice if we could make it right, but have to go safety first.
At this time, we are back live, and I would
Recording in progress.
call the meeting back to order. Mr. Taylor, are you all set?
I'm all set.
Very good. Thank you. Looking at number 7, we did already cover the temporary building. We have covered the connectivity trail. At this time, we have a report on the library patio that is in process of construction behind the library. I hope if you have a chance to drive down that portion of Old Bolton Road.
That's to me,
Accumulate. To me at that point, and see that it is, the forms are begun to be put into place, and it is moving forward. Jim, would you like the floor?
You were there last, so.
I was just there today.
You have more information.
We have a very, very energized and excited staff at the library. Looking forward to having this long sought, and a very special thank you to the Harper Foundation for their generous grant of $10,000 that has made this possible, and to our town crew who has done an amazing job, buildings and grounds, in making sure that this gets done and done well. So thank you very much. And if there's no further comment, we'll move on then.
Can I do one?
Absolutely. John.
And I'll go back to the connectivity trail. I want to,
Oh, hang on, is there anything on the library?
Yes, Pam.
Mr. Aramita?
Yeah, just so you know, it just wasn't the town parks and buildings and grounds. The street department was there, so they're sharing services. They're working together, and I'm happy about that.
You smiling? You smiling, Mr. Aramita?
Yes, I
Is
am.
that what it is? Oh,
Yeah.
I just want that recorded. I'm kidding, Linda.
Mike, you stole my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's great. That's where I was going. I wanted to.
Mr. Moore, would you like the floor?
Yeah, I love it. I already took it. But I just wanted to say, if you want to look at it, you can see the real professional job that our crews did. And they ought to be complimented for it. That was just my comment.
Mr. Rupert, would you please see that those two departments will receive
A good attaboy.
an attaboy, appropriate positive response from the board.
Shall I put something in their employee files?
Yes, please.
Please.
And particularly on, Mr. Aramita, keep smiling, on that they are working together and making it happen. Thank you. We'll move on then to B. Adam, you didn't want to add anything to that? You just smile. Okay. B, cyber upgrades, moving to the .gov domain. The Board of Selectmen had been yoked internet-wise with the schools, and it was recommended that we change that. And we were a .org for since the inception, and due to cyber issues, which many of you are keenly aware of, with hackings and other severe issues that are happening, the town saw fit to employ professionals to aid the town in examining and coming up with some strengthened cybersecurity for its ability to communicate and to the town and to within itself and to maintain control of it. And they are moving towards going from a .org to a .gov, and I believe that has been complete as of August 14th-ish. And it is still, there's some crossover, so if some people use the wrong one of the .org, it will slide over to the new .gov. Is there anything else, Jim, you'd like to add to that?
No, I mean, it hasn't, as you can imagine, any changes like this don't come without some anxiety and some hiccups, but it's really going very well. And I'd like to thank the board for their decision to allow us to move forward with the contract with Novus this year. We have gotten some really positive feedback from our staff, both at the school and across the town, that the change in service has been very positive. So I think that was a really, really good decision by the board. And I know, Mr. Teller had some questions about whether or not they were going to be able to fulfill our needs. And they've done it, and they've done it very, very well. Everybody is very happy. So I'm glad to report that.
Thank you. Any questions for Jim at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on. No action is required. We have the 24 budget report. Jim, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, it's been prepared by the finance department. As you know, a lot of our expenses come at the beginning of the year. We get a lot of big bills at the beginning of the year for insurances and things like that. So, the first quarter is typically a fairly heavy spending quarter, but we are on track. There's nothing highlighted here. There's no areas of concern at this point.
Thank you. Any questions for Jim this time, Mr. Moore? Ms. Moore?
Yeah, on D, was that a transfer that occurred prior in July? You just informing us on?
Yes,
Okay, so we don't have to act.
it's within the limits that you gave me
Right.
to do, so it is just a report.
Okay, I thought that.
Because
I
part of
just wanted to make sure,
right.
okay,
Part of your motion was to allow me to do these transfers.
right,
Up to $1,000, but that I had to provide you.
Yep.
A monthly report.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from those online, Mr. DePietro? Mr.
No.
Vita?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Hearing none for now, then we will move on then to D, the budget transfers. Jim?
We kind of just.
Yeah,
That's it.
There's
There's,
that was me with my dumb question.
that was the add-on, so we do not need to take action on D at this time. We will talk about the
Just information.
AP report.
Yep, that's where you're at.
Jim?
I'm here to answer questions if I can, and if not, I'll get the answers.
So in your packet, there is a multiple page AP report. And does anybody, as you've rummaged through it, studied it, come up with anything that is out of the ordinary that you have a question on, or you would like a reflection that we can bring back to you?
Nope.
yes,
Nope.
All right, very good.
I do.
Oh, Adam, just, yeah.
Page.
Jump right in.
Very first page, the very first one. Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, reimbursement of employee special events, Lower Bolton Lake drawdown. Why is that coming? Why is that a reimbursement?
I think I saw that first.
And what is that?
It's not a
We
reimbursement.
we paid a vendor.
We paid the DEP for the annual lake drawdown.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's titled the way it is. That was something that I felt when I looked at it.
Yeah, it's always been that weird way. It makes no sense, but it's been because Deep sends their diver out to do that.
Okay,
So,
so we're just reimbursing deep for the cost of the diver.
Yes.
But
Right.
that's weird that that's a reconsider.
I think that's the way it's coded from deep. And so our staff is just putting it in the system the way it's coded from deep.
Are there any other questions on this particular document before us?
That was pretty much it.
Adam, would you like to make a motion to accept that?
Did Mike have something? No.
Well, we
No,
can make,
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I move that we approve the AP report.
we have a
I'll s-
motion to approve and we have a second from Mr. DePietro. Any further discussion, Mr. Moore?
No.
Mr. Arita, it's all good? Very good, then I will call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. It passes unanimously. Thank you. So moving on to number 8, the first selectmen's report. At this time, I didn't get any updates. We are aware that there have been strikes going on in other towns regarding the school bus issue. There's concern that there's going to be a solidarity movement in Bolton. And I can tell you that our driver showed up for work this morning and I received contact from the superintendent of schools at 6 a.m. that there was going to be, and then a little bit later that there's going to be full coverage for our school buses. So school proceeded as normal today. Secondly, I was able to sign a lot of documentation, which I thought was going to be very simple, but ended up to be 26 different pieces of paperwork. We are moving forward with the fire truck, Mr. Aramita. The
Yes.
paperwork, Mr. Aramita. The paperwork has been signed for the loan. And that part has been taken care of. The next item, folks, that I just wanted to share was that the library, the senior center and the town hall have been open for cooling centers for this heat wave that is being upon us, our dog days of August and September. And I was at the library today and people were using it. They were coming in to read and relax for a while and get out of the heat. So it was a very positive moment in time. There was also today an accident that occurred right here, almost in front of town hall. A driver came up Bolton Center Road and it was about
Yeah, a little while.
little afternoon. Is that correct, Mr. Jeremy? And was driving in a westbound direction. And the person came upon the town green and did not turn left or right and proceeded straight. And there was a crash and they hit the monument, the closest monument, the large rock monument that is a veterans memorial, I believe, to the World War I and maybe World War II. It's a very large stone, big stone. There's one on each side. There's the Vietnam in the middle. And it has a bronze plaque on it. It has been moved, it has been chipped, and the base has been broken. So the rescue, God bless everybody from our fire department, did the work that was needed. And Mr. Rupert will take care of the further situation as it proceeds in getting it repaired and restored. Having said that, I would then move on then to number 9 and talk to the administrative officer's report.
Pam, can I sneak in for 10 seconds?
Absolutely, Mr. Aramita, how can I help you?
Yeah, you touched on the fire truck. I just wanted to let you know where we are in the status of that.
Yes, sir, please.
The cab has been built and painted. The body has been constructed. Most of the running gear is going together, the chassis and everything else. And to my knowledge, if not all, a very big portion or almost all of the parts have been delivered to the manufacturer to assemble the truck. It's usually from this point forward, usually 30 to 60 days max before the truck is available. So I would say no later than Thanksgiving, it should be here in town, probably a month before that.
Mr. Aramita has, for those that are listening on Community Voice, Mr. Aramita has an extensive fire department history from serving multiple positions in multiple towns, and he brings a wealth of expertise to this discussion. Mr. DePietro, would you like the floor?
Yes, please. Where are we going to keep this when it comes in?
The new one will go into the fire station.
We'll have 234.
That is a question that the board will have to answer at some time in the very near future. My recommendation would be to keep it as a spare for when we have a truck out of service or something. We could maybe get $5,000 for it if we sold it. We just put a $50,000 motor into it, or close to $50,000. It's still a good spare, but it's reached its 30-year maximum life usability, so to speak. There are several things that could be done with it. It could be given to the fire school to be used for training. It could be sold. It could be given to a community that's less fortunate than us. There are several things that could be done to it. I would like to see us keep it as a spare piece of equipment until it dies and then it goes away. But that's something that the board is going to have to make a decision on.
At this time, I would like to direct the town administrator to ask the fire department to come up with a list of options for the board to prepare for us so that we can think about it as this time approaches, that we will be in receipt of a new board. Mr. Rupert?
I'm not sure you want to wait till you see the new board to
No.
make a decision.
No, I want you to request from the fire department a list of options for us.
Sure. My suggestion would be to convene a meeting of the Facilities and Public Safety Subcommittee and ask for the fire chief or some facsimile of the fire department to provide a report to that group, so that group can come back to the full board with a recommendation.
At this time, I would ask the Facilities Subcommittee to take that as a recommendation. Would you please convene yourself within the next month and have a meeting with the fire department to review those items? Thank you very much. Mr. Rupert? Thank you, Mr. Aramita and Mr. DePietro. Mr. Rupert, your monthly report?
Somehow or another, my packet didn't end up with a copy of my report, so I'm gonna ask if there's any questions.
No?
What did we sell the brush truck?
5,100.
Who did it go to, Jim? Or not a specific individual, but did it go to a collector, a farmer, a construction company?
It went to a resident of the town, who currently owns the first fire truck that the town of Bolton ever had.
Oh, so I know who has it then.
He's looking to restore this one as well.
It didn't go very far then.
It did not go far.
There is
Okay.
a question. Would you like to address the question, the one that's in the way back?
But we can. So apparently, so we have a carcass of another truck that's out in the back of the town garage, and I had a visitation last week from Connecticut DEP, who thinks it belongs to them.
I would like
And
to.
And I said, listen, if it belongs to you, do something, because as far as I'm concerned, your truck has been abandoned on town property for probably 15 years. Like, we'd like it to go to the guy who just bought the other truck for spare parts. Can we facilitate that happening? And so apparently there was a time in history when the federal government was getting rid of all of these surplus vehicles and they were giving them to the states.
Yes.
And this apparently is potentially one of those vehicles that was given to the state by the federal government. And it may or may not appear on some inventory somewhere. So in order to facilitate it disappearing, in completion, they have to go back and look in the dregs of their paperwork and try to, I don't know, somehow or another, make the paperwork jive and make it right, make it disappear.
They would have been smarter just to keep their mouths shut and let it go away. There's not a lot left to it.
We will not besmirch
That's not the vehicle. That,
no,
so,
this is the second vehicle.
this is the
Parts vehicle.
parts
Yeah,
vehicle
yeah.
that was acquired from another town. So, so the history, they're gonna have fun. They're gonna have fun finding.
Yep.
So for 15 years, it
They'll
didn't
never
exist.
find that paper.
Right. And now all of a sudden it's there.
And now it's just,
I think you gotta send
Excuse
an
me,
invoice for
Miss-
storage,
Miss,
a monthly invoice for
Teller?
storage and see if they pay it.
would you like to go to the facilities committee and have that discussion? We already have that discussion.
It's not our town administrator to send the DEP an invoice, a monthly invoice for storage of their truck and see how fast they get rid of it.
Yeah, there you go. I'm like,
For 15 years.
I
as
see.
long as they don't send us an invoice for all the parts that are missing off it now.
I have no idea what she.
Oh, this is
Okay.
having a great time as well. Is there anything else on your monthly report that you'd
I
like to
think
share?
the only thing that's not on my monthly report that I want to share in case the Board of Selectmen and other members of the public that might be listening is, there's been some significant reports of invasive species at Middle Bolton Lake. And the town of Vernon has contracted with, I believe, Solitude Lake Management, who is the company we use when we need treatment, to provide treatment for Middle Bolton Lake. We escaped having to do any treatment earlier this year after our consultants did a survey of Lower Bolton Lake. But I'm not sure that we're gonna get through the fall without necessarily having to move forward with treatment, because some of those invasives have, come into Lower Bolton Lake. So we may, and mapping has already taken place, and there may be treatment recommended by our consultants.
The good thing is, the swimming season is over as far as for both parks, Vernon and us, so that.
Fortunately, has minimal impact. It's 24 hours.
Right.
But we do have to, post notices,
Yep.
and notices have been posted already, both virtually and physically for the Middle Bolton Lake treatment.
Hey,
If it-
Jim,
Mr. DePietro?
I just wanted to ask you, it says met with Tim Phillips regarding the Iliad grant. What was the outcome of that? I don't remember.
So the Board of Selectmen had authorized me to work with Pam Phillips to apply for an opioid grant. I haven't gotten notification, but she thinks that we have probably going to get that funding. And there's been some communication by email between Ms. Phillips, Pam Sawyer, myself, and the superintendent of schools, because there is some additional grant monies available to help fight vaping, especially with young kids, but that's gonna require the Board of Selectmen to set up a committee. And the superintendent of schools is suggesting that that probably is better to wait until after the election.
Okay, and the only other thing I wanted to ask you or Pam about, my wife says that AP or A1, excuse me, was robbed twice. I don't follow the Facebook very well. And I just wondered if we have a problem with robbery in town.
I can confirm that that location was broken into last week and was robbed. I'm not aware of an ongoing issue, Bob. I don't see a pattern based on my communications with our resident troopers.
Okay. I still going to lock my car.
Absolutely.
Please, it is recommended by our, sorry.
Yeah, that is very, very, very important. You know, the problem that we've had with motor vehicles, and that seems to have diminished as of late, is it typically is youth offenders and they can't be chased. And we do know that some of the groups that are perpetrating these crimes are carrying weapons. So it's not recommended that you confront them. It's very important to lock your cars, lock your homes, and just be generally aware and safe. And report strange things by calling 911. That's what the phone is there for. Mr. Armita?
Yeah, Jim, you talked about the opioid crisis. Did you get the Department of Public Health message on Saturday about the overdose cluster?
I did not.
Wyndham County is starting to have what they call an overdose cluster, which is just around the corner from us or over the line, so to speak. It's something we need to keep on our minds and look out for each other when it comes to this, because
We've had, as you know, Mr. Armita, we've had our fair share of tragedies with overdose doses this year. But and I expressed that concern to the state police, and so far that they have not found any connection between the cases that we've had here in Bolton.
All right. It sounds like there's something a little stronger than the norm is hitting out that way, and it'll make its way to us eventually. And it's something we should keep on our minds and keep a close eye on our people, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Having heard his report, and thank you for that, I would like to move on then to other, and I will have one other, and that is at the very end of your packet. I will just take jump into Jim's stead for a moment, give him a break. And that is, we have been asked by the Connecticut State geologist to respond to her email with as the board, with either our support, no objection or objection to the change of reference to the name of a legend, and it's been verified in some form, which has been historically called Squash.
It is.
It's considered a derogatory name, and there is a request, and a request was made by our own resident Ray Hardy to have this reviewed and a value placed on it by the state of Connecticut, because it is in a fragile area with a major ending of an interstate at the end of an expressway as a protective measure. And we move forward and have now have two documents in front of you. And at this time, I would like to ask the board to review it and be prepared to act either with your support, no objection or objection to the name request application as presented by Megan Saramet, the state geologist. So if there's no action at this moment, but I would like to have it
do it today.
It
The only thing I couldn't figure out is.
Excuse me, just 1 minute,
Oh,
please.
I'm sorry, we're done,
Just 1
sorry.
minute. It is 8:30 this evening. The question from Mr. Teller, would we like to do it tonight? And that is on the floor. And Mr. Aramita, you have your hand up. The question before us is, would we like to take an action this evening? Mr. Aramita?
Well, that's not what I wanted to comment on. I'd rather wait and read the thing through completely. I haven't done that yet.
Thank you.
But,
That's, could you just hold your thought then?
That's good enough. for me.
well, I'd like to say my thought if I could, just
Oh, I
quickly.
apologize. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know, during the past week or so, I've had the opportunity to read over a few of our amendments to our Constitution, the United States Constitution. And it bothered me when I saw some of the wording that was in the 14th Amendment, for example, referring to, you know, who can vote and who can't vote and why they can't vote and things like that. And it bothered me. And I was driving home from England's the other day and driving right past the Notch. And I thought the name that we have given to that cave was very derogatory. And I'm thinking, why haven't we changed that? And I sit with my packet in front of me and it's talking about that very thing. And I think it's something we should definitely think. What?
A little ESP there, Mr.
Yes,
Aramita.
I think it's very appropriate.
Thank you. Mr. DePietro?
I love it. I love the story. I love her name. Dude, no. Witana or Witana, yeah,
I
Witana.
can't remember what it is.
Was there a question there, sir? No. Okay, very good. Mr. Moore?
Why do, they can change it by just changing it. I mean.
They are reflecting back because of the way the state law requests them to get local input.
Oh, that's what it is?
It's better, right?
Oh,
I'm sorry, and it's probably federal roads. I just happen to know the villages section of the Connecticut State statute, so. that's-
so they want to name it after the woman who was in well, just as the story goes, that's what it
Native-
sounds like.
The Native American.
But I didn't read all, quite honestly, I only read a portion of this thing. It was pretty lengthy and I was
It's
pretty.
probably not true, but it's a great story.
Yes, it is.
There is a, from my understanding, and I was told that there is a record of the marriage where the Dutch trader and the Native American woman went to Boston. They had a local tribal ceremony, and they went to Boston to get a Dutch perhaps ceremony, and then it was registered. So there was some more to the story on their way back and that type of thing. So if you would please review it then, because we have a member or a couple members that still want to do some work.
I would like to.
And we would like, then at that time, I would please ask that it be put on the next agenda. Thank you, everybody. And at this time, we just have a request to set a time. Mr. Teller, can you can certain members whip out their calendars and see if there's a time on September 19th that they would be available for a fairly short AP meeting. And at that time, we could address the state geologist's request as well.
I will be traveling on the 19th.
Can you do it with the call-in, sir?
I can try. If we have a time, I can probably do it.
I'm not available that morning. I'm available in the afternoon.
What time would you think, Mr. Teller?
Anything from 1 to 5 or whatever.
Is there any other
What was, I'm sorry, I didn't
Are there any
have.
conflicts? The 19th?
September 19th,
Oh, the 12th, okay.
19.
19, oh, well, that was on here, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, that one, all right. I thought
Do
you
you
were.
have a conflict?
No, that's fine.
Mr. DePietro, do you have a conflict on the 19th for late in the afternoon, say 4 o'clock?
Do I ever?
Whatever.
Nope.
Dorothy, do you have a conflict?
Okay.
I'm not getting a rise out of him out of that.
That's all right.
I'm just teasing, Bob. Thank you very much for your patience. All right, so what I will set then 4 o'clock, Mr. Teller?
That's
Very good. 4 o'clock then on the 19th for the AP meeting, and we'll also have a discussion and a vote on the state geologist request for the town on the cave, the question of naming of the cave at Bolton Marsh. At this time, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
so.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mm.
And it passes unanimously. Hey, everybody, thank you
Good night,
very
everybody.
much.